everybody. Welcome to this week's Outlandish comparison. Today we will be comparing episode 213, the season finale called Dragonfly and Amber, to our book, Dragonfly and Amber. The parts in the book that are included are Part 1, which is chapters 1 through 5, Chapter 46, and Part 7, which is Chapter 47 through 49. If I had 3 adjectives to describe this episode, it would be intense, beautiful, and powerful. This episode has by far become my favorite, and as I watched it, I was crying, I was cheering. It was everything that I wanted and hoped for. So I hope you guys enjoy it as well. If you haven't watched it yet or plan on reading the books, please be aware that I am going to spoil much things. So our book begins and ends, these kind of bookends, in 1968. Our episode for this week, it intercut the 1968 kind of footage with 1746. So we're going back and forth throughout. In our book, Claire and her daughter, Brianna, which is Jamie's daughter, are on holiday visiting Scotland. And kind of Claire's purpose for this vacation is to finally tell her who she really is, that Jamie is her father, because Frank has been dead for a couple of years, and Claire and Frank had kind of a pact that Claire wouldn't tell Brianna that Jamie was her father until after Frank dies. So Claire and Brianna are on holiday, and Claire also wants to go to Roger Wakefield, who is the Reverend Wakefield's son, and have him do some research. And the research she wants him to do is research on all of the Lallybroch men that Jamie was trying to save, because she wants to know if Jamie was able to fulfill his mission and save his men. In our show opens in 1968, and it is actually at the Reverend's funeral / wake. And it was a very, very cool opening and a beautiful scene at one point where Roger and Claire are just sitting by the fire. And Roger's asking Claire, how do you go on when you've lost somebody that you love so much? And Claire's kind of saying, I don't even know. It's hard to say goodbye, and I'm not good at it. And it was just this beautiful moment that definitely brought tears to my eyes, and it gave them a connection. In our book and our show, we got to see the death of Dougal Mackenzie. Now, they were both very similar how this happened, and basically Claire is telling Jamie, look, the only way in the 11th hour that we can stop this rebellion is if we poison Charles Stewart, so that there is nothing to fight for anymore. And Claire and Jamie are kind of discussing it, and Dougal overhears them. And it was great to see this come to life on screen finally, because Jamie's trying to calm Dougal down, saying, okay, you're hungry, you're tired, this has been a crazy war so far, just calm down, you heard things wrong, you don't get it, and Dougal just won't have it. He's screaming at Jamie and Claire, and okay, I won't kill you, Jamie, if you just let me kill Claire. Like, she's the one that's turned you away from your prince. She is the culprit. She is, the English spy, witch, whatever, this horrible creature. they finally come to that hand-to-hand combat, and it's so intense because you don't really know what's going to happen. And our show actually added, in the last moment, Claire helping Jamie push the knife in, because it was a physical struggle, and it was like they're both so strong of men that it was whose will is going to win out. And in the show, they just gave that little push from Claire. And it was crazy to see this finally. And then the moment I have been waiting for many years, when Jamie comes out and he tells Murtaugh, "I've killed Dougal Mackenzie." And Murtaugh's eyebrows just, okay, what are we going to do about it? It was just great. I loved seeing that moment with Murtaugh. He only needs about 3 seconds to ever get anything, even when it's something really crazy. And then, all right, what are we going to do about it? As soon as Jamie kills Dougal, he realizes in that moment, okay, I am already a British traitor for being a Scottish rebel. And now the Mackenzies are going to come after me because I killed their chief. And he realizes there's nothing left I can do. I am going to die no matter what. And so he pulls out the sheet of paper, which is the deed of Lallybroch, and he had predated it so that it was dated before he became a Scottish rebel, and has Claire and Murtaugh sign it, giving the estate over to his nephew, young Jamie. And it's so intense in that moment because they're all kind of coming to the realization it's over, there's nothing left. And this is when Jamie passes the baton onto Fergus. He's like, take this document to Lallybroch. It's worth more than my life. And I trust you as a man. You are like my son. And it was just incredible to see that. And you see Fergus grow up in that moment, even though he's completely distraught, knowing that Jamie, who he looks up to so much, is about to die. He knows that I gotta do this for him. And it was just really beautiful. In this episode and our book, we finally see Claire come face to face with Jamie's gravestone. In our book, Claire actually finds Jamie's real physical stone, and Roger is there, and he asks, what is it? Is it a name you know? And Claire reads, James Alexander Malcolm Mackenzie Fraser, she read aloud. Yes, I know him. Her hand dropped lower, brushing back the grass that grew thickly about the stone, obscuring the line of smaller letters at its base. Beloved husband of Claire, she read. Yes, I knew him, she said again, so softly Roger could scarcely hear her. I'm Claire. He was my husband. She looked up then into the face of her daughter, white and shocked above her. And your father, she said. In that moment, she's so overcome by seeing Jamie's physical gravestone that she'd been planning out, how am I going to tell Brianna this? But the emotion just takes over, and she has to tell her in that moment. In our show, it was just as powerful, but in a different way. Claire goes out onto the Culloden field, and she sees the Clan Fraser marker, and she just sits down by it and starts talking to it as if it were Jamie. And at the end, she says, goodbye, Jamie Fraser, my love. And it just breaks your heart. And I'm going to cry now. But, you know, as this all happens, Brianna is really, really mad because she's thinking, my mom is crazy. She's making all this stuff up. This is like her way of getting attention. I don't know why she's dragging me into this. What is this all about? And Claire's trying to tell her the truth, but the craziness of the actual truth is too much for Brianna to believe at this point. So I really liked how in our show we really got the aggression coming out from Brianna of how angry she was at her mom. And it's also really good that Roger is there during this entire revelation, because Roger is, yes, a historian, so he's always reading different accounts of history and the different takes on it, but he's still Scottish. And so there's that bit of him inside that has the tendency to believe in the old tales and the folklore. And I actually love that they brought in this bit from the book. I had no idea they were going to bring it in, where Roger does a rat satire. I was just cracking up because it was just this funny song to get rid of rats, and you have to sing to the rats, and it's obviously a kind of Scottish tradition. And so it's very neat to see Roger's different perspective of, he's definitely not completely sure if Claire is telling the truth, but he's definitely not where Brianna just thinks my mom's a liar. Roger, he wants to know more. This week, we finally got to see the return of Geillis Duncan. In our book, Claire is asking Fiona, which is Mrs. Graham's granddaughter, and she kind of lives at Roger's house, kind of takes care of the house, cooks, and all that stuff, about her. And Claire obviously doesn't know if her name would be the same, because Claire knew her technically 20 years ago. So she's kind of trying to describe her to Fiona, and Fiona says, yeah, there is this lady. She's been asking a lot of questions. And so that's kind of how Claire starts to unravel, okay, Geillis might be here in Scotland right now. In our show, it was also very cool. Brianna happens upon Geillis giving a lecture, and she uses her new name in this episode is Gillian Edgars. That's her name in 1968. And Gillian's there giving this impassioned speech about how if Bonnie Prince Charlie would have just won, how different Scotland would be, and just getting people riled up. And it was so cool because you could totally see her character doing that. As I've mentioned several times before, Dragonfly and Amber is such a crucial book. It is the most crucial book to the entire series. And one of the reasons why is this is where Jamie sends Claire back through the stones. And it was so great to see this come to life on film. Definitely makes you cry, and I'm going to try to not cry as I talk about this, because Claire is so distraught. She doesn't want to leave Jamie, and so she just says, well, look, you were going to die for me at Cranesmere to protect me from the witch trial, so I'm going to go on the battlefield and I'll die with you. And Jamie looks at her and says, but I wasn't carrying your child. And they have that moment where it's, oh my gosh, how did you know? And I don't even know yet completely, but you have to go back and save our child, because our child is all that's going to ever be left of me. Ever. And it was just so sad and heartbreaking to finally see that moment where Jamie's like, you gotta go now. So our last event in our book and our show is when Roger, Claire, and Brianna go to Craignadoon to try to stop Geillis/Gillian from going back to the past. And if you recall back to season 1, where Claire and Geillis are at the witch trial, Geillis keeps saying, why are you here? Why are you here? You didn't come to change things? And Claire's just saying, yeah, this was an accident. I didn't want to come here. And you can tell that Geillis' whole reason to go back in time was to try to get Prince Charles to win the war. Her misguided research led her to believe that she needed a human sacrifice to be able to travel through time. And so in this moment, you truly get to see how crazy Jillian Geillis really is, because she kills her husband and burns him. In that moment, she goes through the stones. Roger, Claire, and Brianna are hearing all the noises. In our book version, Claire and Roger, Claire's trying to hang on to other stones so that she doesn't get sucked in, and Roger's actually climbing towards the stone, and Brianna has to pull him back. But in that moment, Brianna finally becomes a believer. She finally realizes that her mom wasn't lying to her. Her mom has been telling her the truth. As far-fetched as it may seem, she finally believes her mom. Our book ends on a cliffhanger. Roger's talking, and he says, "One man, a Fraser of Master Lovett's regiment, escaped," Roger repeated softly. He looked up from the stark page to see her eyes, wide and unseeing, as a deer's fixed in the headlights of an oncoming car. "He meant to die in Culloden Field," Roger whispered, "but he didn't." Our show takes it a little further and doesn't give you such a cliffhanger, because they actually show Claire saying, "I have to go back." I loved this episode. This has become my favorite episode. Everything about it was exactly what I wanted, and the emotions came across so beautifully. I need to stop talking about it, or I'm just going to start crying again. That concludes our comparison of Dragonfly and Amber to Outlander Season 2. I hope you guys enjoyed them, and you're probably wondering, well, what am I going to do now that the Outlander series is off season for now? So one of the first things I'm going to do is start uploading some of my singing tips that I usually have on my band's YouTube channel and social media. So I'm going to compile some of those, put them on here. So make sure you subscribe for that. We're actually going to start a new series featuring the man behind the camera, Sean, and it is going to be a guy's guide to Outlander. So if you know any men that are want to get into Outlander, but they're, I don't know, it seems a little too girly, we're going to get the guy's perspective. We also might do some things about some of the music in Outlander, and because this idea of doing a comparison just never came to me during season 1, I'm going to actually go back in a month or so and do comparisons of Outlander Book 1 and Season 1. So make sure you're subscribed so you can catch all that stuff in the next few months as we roll it out. I hope you guys enjoyed. Have a wonderful week, and I will see you soon. Make sure you subscribe, all right?